Hi, Sweet Pea.
Hi, Mummy Bear.
We've got another Chit-Chat.
We have episode 38.
38. This is Owen Hayman.
It is absolutely fabulous, darling.
Just fabulous, darling. We had such an amazing chat with Owen. We talked for hours, and I think both of us felt that little bit more intelligent by the time we'd finished.
We did, and there were so many kind of ideas. We talked about really deep, interesting things about invasive plants, for example, and what are the possibilities, what could become an invasive plant.
Yeah.
So it was a really interesting chat. And then we have total other end of the spectrum. We start talking about Barbie, and absolutely fabulous, darling.
And true teas versus tisans.
Tisans, exactly.
Poo-powered ponies.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Oh, and at the end we take a little bit of a trip down childhood road,
bit of memory
back
lane,
to a very strong drink that we all drank as kids.
I think
I still
all of
drink.
us have had it.
Yeah.
You still love. As it turns out, so does Owen.
Yep.
And it does make it into his dream garden.
It does.
Owen we first met on Gardener's World right back in 2024 on episode 1. He had this beautiful patch of land in the Peak District, which we talk a lot more about in the podcast, how it came about, how he ended up with that land.
Exactly.
He basically went out to get an allotment and came back with this beautiful hillside patch.
Oh, and at the same time we do talk about a conned Canadian woman, which we feel very
lovely
sorry
Canadian
for that woman.
ladies. That was sad, wasn't it? We also cover growing veg in Alaska, the serendipitous foxglove that started Owen's journey into horticulture, his love for open water swimming.
Oh my gosh, this is very interesting.
Yeah.
Understanding how to
The
calm
breathing, darling.
The breathing.
Yeah. You need to calm that breathing down, Sweet Pea.
Yeah.
A lot to be learnt from that.
I can just see myself going in the water going, just completely hyperventilating.
And at one point, Owen does relate himself to the lady in the water lilies. That is the painting Ophelia.
Yeah.
And we reference it in this chat, and none of us could remember what it was called.
No, we couldn't.
But that's the one that we're talking about.
So just imagine Owen in the water lilies.
Floating on his back.
Floating around.
It's actually a rather beautiful painting. As a result of this chat,
stunning.
we looked it up, didn't we?
We did.
And the detail in it is
intricate, isn't it?
Really intricate,
Little
and you can
bits.
recognise all the plants that are illustrated in it beautifully.
It's amazing.
Lovely painting.
Yeah.
We also learned from Owen some top tips about visiting gardens in winter.
Yes.
We hear about the global rock stars of planting design, Nigel Dunnett and James Hitchmough.
Yep.
The potential perils of Eryngium giganteum.
Yes.
Also known as
Miss Wilmot's Ghost.
We've
very
come across
cool story.
that a few times, haven't we?
We have.
And also we come across Indigofera pendula for the first time.
Yeah, I'd never heard of this plant before.
No.
So it's very interesting. And look it up because it's beautiful.
Something else we should mention is we did talk for hours.
We did, but it was a great few hours.
Really great few hours. It was a few hours.
A few hours.
We all got very carried away.
We did.
Obviously a lot of editing had to occur to reduce it down to a more acceptable length for a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
But a whole section that we did have to remove was Owen's experience of travelling the length and breadth of the UK, going to all the best nurseries around. So what we've done is we have taken the recommendations. Those will go onto our website as usual. And then if you want to hear that discussion that we had, we have put that onto the Patreon and you can catch it there.
Great stuff. Do have a look.
In terms of noises, we're pretty clean again this week. Hobbs does have a moan, and I think Owen's cat gets involved as well at one point.
Oh, sweet.
So Sweet Pea, tell us the format.
So for the structure of Owen's dream garden, we had garden boundary, shed or greenhouse, 5 ornamentals, 5 edibles, 1 statement tree, pond or pool plus 1 plant, and finally favourite seating area and drink and 1 plant for that area.
And if you do want to get in contact, then please do so through our website. Go to the contacts page there, or to our email address, which is notjustagarden@outlook.com.
Exactly.
Our website, of course, is notjustagarden.co.uk.
Yeah, you can also get through to us on Instagram as well. Just send a little message, a DM. Is it called a DM on Instagram?
I'm not sure what they call it.
I do not know. I do not have Instagram. But anyway, it's through there.
Facebook as well.
Facebook as well, exactly.
So Sweet Pea, I think we should have a look at this one.
I think we should.
This is episode 38, a good old chit-chat with Owen Hayman.
Off we go.
Welcome, Owen, to Good Old Chit-Chat.
Hello, thank you.
It's been a long time since we last saw you. You were on Gardener's World on the very first episode last year, 2024.
Yeah, in March.
That's right.
And
That's right.
you were showing us around that beautiful garden on a hillside, a very exposed hillside, and you had explained how you had been on a wait list for an allotment, but ended up getting this amazing garden. Can you just remind us a bit more about what happened there?
So I moved in with my partner 11 years ago into a tiny little house in northernmost Sheffield, and he had a tiny little garden. And the first thing, there was nothing there apart from a bit of grass that was mostly just covered in leaf mold, which is quite nice for a kind of leaf mold lawn.
Okay.
And there was one plant, and it was a foxglove, and the foxglove had just self-seeded, and it grew, and I didn't know what it was, and I thought, oh, I'll watch that. I saw the foliage, and I thought I'll just watch that grow, and basically that was the start of it for me, and I just completely got into gardening, and I put myself on a waiting list for an allotment because I wanted somewhere bigger. I was in this tiny little space that is mostly really a driveway. It's a driveway with this tiny bit of what was supposed to be lawn that was just covered in leaves.
And one foxglove.
And one
foxglove, exactly. And then some tyre planters that I made, where you turn the tyre inside out.
Those are great.
And that's
Had you painted them?
No, I didn't paint them. I do like the painted ones. And just recently, actually, we gave those away. So I put those up on Facebook Marketplace, and they were taken by someone during the day, and I just put it up and said, come and get them, and they just disappeared. So perhaps they're the start of someone else's gardening journey now, those like little tyre planters.
Oh, that'd be nice.
And I was on an allotment waiting list, and I did view a few in the area, and it was quite funny, really. So one of them was on an extremely windswept hillside. I live in Penistone, and Penistone is, I think it's one of the highest market towns in the UK. And it is really high up, and it's got amazing views. You can see from here, even though we're in the middle of the country, you can actually see the east coast. You can see Drax Power Station and all the different power stations that are on the east coast. You can see them all,
right?
And so it's got these amazing views all the way around, and then over to the Dark Peak, the kind of peat bogs of the Dark Peak in the Pennines. And one of the first allotment I went to visit, it was like paddy fields, but on a hillside. So it was just clay. It was pure clay. And they had dug trenches all the way around their individual beds just for drainage. And they had this little kind of series of kind of drainage channels that ran through the allotment. And they weren't allowed
so there were people persevering with that.
They were, yeah. And all the vegetables were totally sideways. They were just like completely sideways. And you weren't allowed...
Oh, we feel that.
We do, we feel that.
Yeah. And there was no running water, and you weren't allowed to plant hedges, and you weren't allowed to plant fruit trees or fruit bushes.
Oh, no.
And there was no real windbreak. And I thought...
That's rubbish.
And so I went there and thought, do I really want to put the effort in to hope to potentially, if I'm lucky, achieve a sideways cabbage? And I did go to quite a few, and eventually this one came up, and it's interesting. It went out on this allotment mailing list, and it actually, no one was interested. They kept advertising it, saying, "Oh, there's this garden that's like cropped up," and no one's like getting back to them.
Why not?
What had put people off it is that it is down quite a long stony track, and it at the time didn't have any water, and you were on your own there. It's not part of a. There's not any other allotments.
Yeah, not part of a community. Sorry to interrupt, Owen. When you talk about the allotment waitlist, so that isn't just for allotments. That can be any patch of land. Anyone can say, listen, I need my land looked after. And people on the allotment waitlist have the option to go to that land instead of a bona fide allotment.
I think what I found was very unusual. So this was a landowner who bought a farm that had a walled garden, and they thought, it's not an allotment, but we'll just put it up through the local allotment association, and as a way to find someone who might like to use it. And originally they had it for 2 people, so I had the lower half, and a very lovely Canadian Mormon lady had the upper half. And there's a bit of a story, really. So at the time I was working in a garden centre, and I was only just kind of moved into professional horticulture, and I was doing my training, and I was working in a local garden centre, and I had just taken on this allotment, And all I knew was that the other person who owned it was a Canadian lady. That's all I'd been told. And in Penistone, there's not a lot of Canadian people.
No.
And then I was in work literally the next day, and I could just hear this Canadian accent. And this lady had come in, and the woman who ran the nursery, who would just sell you anything, she'll just sell you anything. So she was like, "Oh, you want to grow potatoes, and what you need to grow them is like loads of massive buckets, and you need loads and loads of compost, and you need to put all the compost in the buckets and plant your potatoes in that." So and basically, she, in order to sell her not just the seeds and the potatoes, she wanted to sell her all this other stuff. So she just managed, and she succeeded in doing it. And this lovely Canadian lady just drove away with like bags and bags of compost and all these buckets. And then up at the allotment, I could just see it all out there, like lined out. And I thought, we've actually got beautiful soil here, and we've got this amazing space, and everything was planted in pots, in compost.
So sad,
and I just thought, oh gosh. And then she bought yellow tomatoes, these little, and they were like a little kind of pear drop shape.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
But she didn't know that they were yellow, so she was waiting for them to ripen, and they just all fell off. And we were saying, look, they're ripe, and we were just eating them like off the ground because they were just delicious and they were just falling off the plant. So and basically after the first year, she kind of gave up, and all these pots of potatoes were just kind of left there. But they were quite helpful pots, actually.
So you didn't at any point say, "Listen, you've been hoodwinked by my boss."
I think they did start sowing things in the ground as well, but they had a young family, and I think they underestimated how much work it would be, as a lot of us do when we take on an allotment.
Sure.
And
and
then
that's sad.
It is a little bit sad. I think that they focused on their own home garden, so they already had a garden at home, and I think that they just spent a bit more time doing that.
Yeah. So with her leaving, did that mean you got to have that other part of the plot?
Yes, basically.
Oh,
so
win-win
that was quite
situation
lucky.
Then.
And I had really kind of done well with my lower half. And so the landowner was like, "Yeah, you just take on that bit as well."
Brilliant.
Because that'll be good.
And keep the pots and the
potatoes. Yeah.
Do you still have those pots?
Yeah. They're just really big. They're like those massive, like 50, 40 litre tree buckets that you buy a mature tree in.
Amazing.
So it's that kind of thing. That's what, and trugs and things like that. So
what do you grow in them now?
Oh, I just use them for weeding. So I just use them as a nice big bucket to just throw all the weeds in.
Great.
And things like that.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So you've got this land. Do the owners have any input at all, or they just literally do what you will with this land, keep it nice, we'll step back, leave you to it?
It's pretty much like that now. They did grow like a few things themselves, some peas and strawberries, and planted a damson tree. But they've got a busy life, they've got lots of land that they're trying to manage. They're trying to get up an Airbnb business off the ground with like kind of little glamping pods. They're busy working people, and I think basically they're just happy that someone's there and that I turn up and I'm very proactive. I'm there a lot, just keeping an eye on it a lot of the time.
Well, we could see from the Gardeners World episode, it is absolutely stunning. And we genuinely learnt a lot from your segment.
We did.
Especially about colour combinations. And it was just, I don't remember it being full of colour. And
the grasses were the biggest thing for me.
All those grasses, but it was just so alive and so vibrant. Is it still like that?
Oh, thank you. No, that's really kind. I think it is like that. And I would say, if anything, it's more so. Over time, there's kind of been two. I would say there's almost like two chapters that a lot of gardeners will identify. So the first one is you've got all this space, and you just want, and you need to start filling it, or slowly peeling back what's there and replacing it with the things that you love. And so you go through this kind of collection phase. And for me, that was like going to some of the best nurseries in the country, and it takes a few years to get to them, to get round to going to those places, going to these great nurseries, buying those plants, doing the research, and obviously all the time your list is kind of always growing of the things that you'd love to buy, and you can't get all of them. And then same time, through friends, you're collecting seeds, or when I go to places, I'm always collecting seeds,
propagating,
propagating, growing through some cuttings. And then I went to Wisley, so did the Wisley diploma for 2 years. So I got to kind of be in this like horticultural mecca, like global horticultural mecca that is RHS Wisley, and that astounding plant collection. And so that starts to inspire more things that I'm on the lookout for, or little seeds and things like that. So I just had this like growing collection, and then eventually, and a lot of the time I was busy, and I would be like getting home from Wisley or getting home from work, and I had all these amazing plants that I managed to get hold of. And you just had to get them in the ground. They just need to get in the ground wherever you've got space.
Yeah, as quickly as possible, rain or sunshine.
That's it. Yeah, and you can't really design when you're when you don't know what's around the next corner. You just have to take it in and put it there, and then and I feel like basically that was kind of like chapter 1. And I feel like just last year, just kind of when Gardener's World happened, I kind of decided to end chapter 1 ish. You can, of course, I'll always be collecting plants, but what I needed to do was I had all these amazing plants now that have grown. Some of them have been in the ground for 3, 4, 5, 7 years. And so they're lovely big plants. And now I can divide those. And I basically lifted and divided to like 3/4 of the whole allotment. I lifted the whole thing, lifted and divided, and then replanted with a design, with a thought to what I like where and what grows where. Because I just had like, that's it. And that's kind of the next bit. And I would say, a lot of us, when we create gardens, we spend a lot of time doing the first bit. And I would say, if you have the time and the energy and the kind of like the guts, do at some point think, actually I'm going to change it all.
Yeah, you say having the guts to do it, because when you were talking about it immediately I'm thinking scary.
Yeah, completely.
I guess with all your horticultural knowledge from all the training that you've been doing over the last few years, you know exactly what you can and can't move and how to look after it to make sure you don't lose that plant.
Yeah, I would say you can, almost anything you can move. There are a few, trees and shrubs obviously would be some of those you need to be a bit more careful with.
Of course.
The one that springs to mind is a Daphne Bouteloua.
Oh, yeah.
Daphne are famous for being very difficult to move.
They don't like to move.
Really, that's it, resenting root disturbance. So that would be the classic. But with herbaceous perennials, which is mostly what I'm playing with, herbaceous plants and grasses, all of those can be moved. But I think, coming in the professional world, you've got to assessing things, observing things and making changes is really how things progress. But I think as home gardeners, we often think, but that's my treasured plant. And I planted that when I was just getting going. And this is my little combination that I made that I love. And that combination might have served you well, but you could dig it up and you could rejazz it. And in 2 years, you might think, wow, this is my whole new combination. Yeah. And things have evolved. And I think it was Jimmy Blake, in Ireland.
Oh yeah.
I went to volunteer with him, and he said he, had a really short attention span for his planting, and he liked to change it.
Interesting.
Just every 3 to 5 years, by the sounds of it, it was completely revamped, rejigged, and moved things around. And even in the middle of summer, he'd dig up a whole rhododendron, quite like a semi-mature rhododendron would be dug up, and it would be slung on the back of his golf buggy. And driven around somewhere, and then replanted. And I thought, wow, okay, if you can move, but I mean that is Ireland where they get plenty of rain. But
exactly. So basically, you've got to be bold and brave. Just go for it. I mean, it's no one dies, I guess, but the plant might. But
that's it. I think what happens as well is after a few years of getting to know a garden, and it does take a while, you do start to learn. Okay, this is dry shade, this is exposed windy conditions, this is where my fertile soil is, and this is the type of planting that I want to see here, and these are the colours that look really good in that corner, and you start to really get an idea of what works in, and each area has its personality and its own atmosphere. Very true. And obviously the plants you put in it are partly, will pull you in different directions. And I think I had started to realise, okay, these are the core plants of these different areas, and that's what I need to do now. And but also just the basic logistical things, like where do you want your tall plants? You can't put tall plants everywhere.
Of course. I'd be mad.
And that's kind of what I had done. I just had like a huge tall aster here and a huge tall this, that. And so it's kind of,
we had
this sounds relatable. Yeah.
We had many floppy plants at the beginning. We had huge marguerites, which were just huge. And I was just like, I forgot to Chelsea chop. I didn't know how to Chelsea chop at that point.
Yeah.
But I learned so many things.
In our mind's eye, it looked so different to... it was like, we'll have a huge thing there and we'll have some small things around it. And that looked great, but it never worked out who we want. But it's so true. You sort of, after a few years, you learn what works in your garden. And it's a lesson we're learning time and time again, watching Gardeners World and also talking to our guests on Chit-Chats, is that really what's happening in your garden can be very different to even what's happening in your neighbour's garden. And so you can have all these rules that it's nice to have, but also you do have to just go with the flow and see what works and adapt as you go along. So you talk about the qualifications. So 11 years ago, you had no horticultural experience. It was just purely this foxglove and a mulchy lawn inspired you. Did you then... Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I did know about plants and soils. So I did a degree in environmental science.
Yeah.
And I also, before that, did an art foundation course. So I thought I would go and do fine art. Here's actually one of my paintings. You can't see it very well.
Oh, you can't see it.
I could see that there was a painting, but there's too much reflection.
Yeah, it's of yew foliage. It's like a kind of stencil art of yew foliage.
Are you still painting now?
I don't actually do much of it. I think the garden is the art, but I think the thing with painting is it's like they become these possessions that you need to hold on to, or you need to sell, or you need to just throw them in the bin. And it's kind of one of those three. Yeah. And they all require like this emotional thing. So I think garden's good. If a plant dies, it's dead. It's slug food, and you have to make peace with it. But a painting is harder to just let it go.
I can understand that.
That's a good point.
So you've got your fine arts background. You had done this environmental science. So once you stepped out of uni, having done your 3 years degree, did you in your mind know where you wanted to go? You had this environmental science. So did you know it's the horticultural route you probably want to go? Or what were you
I worked as a technician. So I worked in the field. So I went to Alaska for the first 8 months after I graduated. Woo! Amazing. And I arrived there just before the longest day of the year, which meant that it
sunshine all
was
day long.
Yeah, it was basically sunshine for like 3 or 4 weeks, and then the sun finally set.
It's exhausting.
And then by the time I left, the sun hadn't risen for 4 weeks. So that's it. Kind of, I was at both ends of the extreme, and it just slowly got darker and darker until it was in total pitch black.
Gosh, do you get completely different plants out there then when you've got that kind of?
I think
you're gonna have to.
If you ever go to the Peak District and you go onto those high moorland plateaus that on Kinder Scout, that's what it looks like. So it's what they call tundra. So it's a peat bog, and it's what they call the tundra, and it's cotton grass and sedges. And there's not a lot of flowers. It's very kind of acidic, and it's frozen for most of the year.
How do you grow vegetables in Alaska?
Well, did they grow vegetables? I mean, the native people would eat obviously whale, and then a whole range of fish and birds.
Oh yes,
very protein and meat based.
Yeah, and then my understanding is that they would eat the algae out from the whale's stomach. So that would be the plant. That would be the plant material.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
very cool, actually.
Yeah,
and also I didn't know there was algae inside the stomach of.
No,
whales.
I didn't.
That's because whales are, they're just like plankton feeders, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're just they're just kind of sieving up all that plankton.
Cool.
Well, some whales are obviously not all whales.
Yeah,
no, not the killer ones.
Not the killer version.
Yeah, and then I worked on kind of various projects I also went to Panama and Borneo and looked at legume trees.
Yeah,
cool.
So if you think about legumes, your peas and wisteria is a legume as well.
Yes.
Or clover. Well, in the tropics, you've got legume trees, so they are absolutely whopper, massive tree peas.
Tree peas.
Catalpa, big nonioides, that the Indian bean tree. That would be a garden one that you might know of, the Indian bean tree.
Why specifically were you looking at those out in Borneo?
So we were looking at how plants weather minerals. So how plants break down minerals in the soil to get nutrients from those minerals. And it was part of a big project looking at whether we could crush up volcanic rocks and spread them on agricultural land, and then see if the crops can break down those minerals and through a long series of chemical reactions form more limestone and chalk at the bottom of the ocean. So we've now gone from the tropical agricultural system, we're now in the ocean.
Interesting.
And the weathering rate of minerals on land drives the rate of limestone and chalk production in the ocean. And limestone and chalk is made of calcium carbonate. So there's a huge amount of carbon locked up in that. And then when the carbon is pulled out from the ocean, it ends up balancing with the atmosphere, and you have a long-term carbon drawdown from the atmosphere into rocks at the bottom of the sea. And it helps deal with ocean acidification. So it's a strategy for removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere.
So what was the conclusion then? Can you use
it's ongoing. It's ongoing research by it's called the Leverhulme Centre for Climate Change Mitigation. I did 2 years of a PhD in it, and that's when I realised this is amazing, but this is not the place for me to be.
Not quite.
This was like I loved the field work and I loved the plants and the research was fantastic, but you know, when you're just like, this is not my vibe. This is not me. I'm struggling. I'm just gasping for breath here. And by which point I had, fallen in love with the random foxglove that had grown on the driveway and thought actually,
then that happened.
actually like horticulture, that's where I need to be, is over there.
Wow, so that foxglove came along at just the right time then for you.
I think
questioning your life choices.
That's it. Yeah, I think the foxglove had come along a few years before, and I'd been really getting into gardening. And then I met a friend through swimming called Simeon. Simeon, we call him Swimian because we go swimming with Simeon.
Of course.
Perfect.
And he was a professional self-employed gardener.
Right.
And the day that I dropped out from my PhD, which was quite a sad day, he said, tomorrow, come with me, you'll come and help me in a garden. And I went and we weeded crocosmia, where you've got too much crocosmia, and we had a bonfire in a garden in the middle of winter, and it just started me on the road.
Wow.
So Swimian's got a lot to answer for then. He's set you on a different track. And we should just explain, this is open water swimming that you do, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I grew up by the sea in Swansea, and I've always, since I can remember, got in the sea all year round. I just absolutely loved it. Even when I was a little kid, I wouldn't be in for long. You'd just be in and out, but it would blow your socks off, and I just loved that feeling. And then just carried on through into adult life, and then obviously now it's become like this big thing, And,
it really has become a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't want to be hipster and be like, I was doing it before it was cool.
You do. You want to
come on.
Well, I wasn't. But the truth is, I was running in and running out screaming in the winter, but it was only when I joined these outdoor swimming groups, like on Facebook. You had these outdoor swimming groups, and that's when I met all the lovely 50-year-old women who were doing it, who taught me how to actually stay in the winter and how to once you've calmed your breath, stay in for a minute or two. No, I'm not timing it. It's not a competition. We just like to get in, but it was them that really showed me how to stay in for a bit longer and how to really enjoy the.
What is the technique then?
Well, it's basically just getting in and knowing that your breath will, especially when you're not used to it, your breath will, you will hyperventilate. You'll be like, but once you see through that, and that might take 30 seconds to a minute and a half, once you see through that, you will calm down and you'll start to feel calm again. Okay. And then you'll have a nice little swim. And again, you might stay in for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It's not about timing it. It's just about you doing you and you enjoying the swim and doing what's right for your body. And then the more that you do it, the easier it becomes. So when I get in winter now, it just takes me a few seconds and I'm in. And I still have that kind of, my heart rate goes up. But then I know, it's called that's it. They call it being habituated. So it's knowing I am okay. I'll feel fine in a second. I'm not going to die. Everything's fine.
Whereas,
that's it. So
that's gritted teeth.
and you just know, okay, my heart rate will go up. I'll feel like this, but I'm absolutely fine.
So you started weeding with your friend, Swimian. And then you worked at a nursery as well.
Yeah, I worked my way up from the bottom, really. Like the Drake song, started from the bottom. Now we're here, and I wanted to do everything. I wanted to learn it all: work in nurseries, work in garden centres, do domestic garden maintenance, and I love doing that. I think getting to know the full the kind of getting a sense of the spectrum of normal people's gardens, amateur gardens, including gardens of people who don't like gardens, and that's because when you're doing maintenance for someone, it's because they don't like gardening themselves, so that's why they get you in.
That's a good
so
point.
You get this kind of sense of the real world, and what do gardeners do, what do people who aren't gardeners do, what do retired people do, and also what's their knowledge of plants. When they come into the garden centre, you do have to explain the difference between a perennial and an annual. A lot of people don't know that. So I like doing that, and I was doing my RHS level 2 qualifications alongside working.
Oh no, Wisley was after that.
That's it, yeah. So I did level 2, and I did that at college in York at Askham Bryan, which is an agricultural college, and I did half of it online with the Royal Botanic Garden of Edinburgh. Right. And I did them both at the same time, and I crammed it all into a year, which was really intense.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then you went to Wisley after that?
A few years later. So I kind of worked my way up, and I ended up working for a garden designer called Lee Bestall in Sheffield, who's just the nicest guy, and he's got a great team. And, he's a real kind of really professional mindset, really professional operation, and really great gardens. And we were doing the planting and the maintenance of the lovely gardens that they build. Yeah. And he just really invested in me and gave me lots of opportunities to learn and develop. And I remember I almost went to do a student traineeship at Chatsworth, because Chatsworth is, the big garden that's near Sheffield. Yeah. Sheffield doesn't have a lot of big gardens near it. It has Chatsworth, which is a fantastic garden. And I almost went to do this traineeship, and he said, "Oh, what could I do to make you stay with me?" And I said, "Oh, well, I just really want to visit loads of gardens around the UK." And he said, "Okay, well," I was only working 4 days a week for him. And he said, "Well, on the 5th day, on the Friday, if you want, you can just go and visit gardens and then write it up for our website." And so, I drew up.
That?
That's it, yeah. And I drew up a plan of all the places that I wanted to visit. And I said, I'm going to visit them all 3 or 4 times in the year to see them through the seasons.
Yes, of course.
Including in the winter, because I really believe if you want to understand how a garden works, go in the winter. That's when you see the bones.
Such a good point.
Also, the gardeners are cold and lonely, and they want to talk to someone, and they'll tell you, and they'll tell you everything. Don't turn up in early summer and then try and talk to them, because they'll just angry face.
Okay. That's a top tip, isn't it?
Exactly, top tip.
Yeah.
What an amazing opportunity! And so, what are you doing now then?
Yeah.
So now eventually I did go on to Wisley. I did the 2 years. So I did the level 3, level 4 at Wisley, and when I got back, I work for Pictorial Meadows and the Green Estate. Yeah. And they're someone that they're a company that I've followed for many years, and I would have worked. To be honest, I would have worked with them 10 years ago when I got started, but there weren't any jobs. But I'm kind of glad there wasn't, because it allowed me to gain all these other experiences and just go all the way through. Pictorial Meadows was started by Nigel Dunnett, who's a kind of professor of planting design at the University of Sheffield. Mm-hmm. And he always worked with James Hitchmough as well. Mm-hmm. And they were these two kind of rock stars. They're global rock stars of planting design. Yeah, and they have a really spaces. For urban places and public space, and it's very rooted in science. So they take this really scientific approach, a plant ecology approach. Yeah.
Okay. And what do you do for them?
So I am the Horticulture Innovation Manager, which is a really, really jazzy title.
Very jazzy title. What does that mean?
Yeah.
In itself, what does it mean?
So I only started this role 6 months ago, and it's the first time they've ever had that role dedicated. So Pictorial Meadows has always been about innovation. The whole concept of Pictorial Meadows is innovative. So it's about kind of creating low-cost, high-impact planting that is maintainable on modest maintenance budgets with modest skills available, because often that is what you're dealing with in urban place. You don't always have consistent staff, and so you need planting that's really robust and resilient, and that was fairly cost effective to install in the first place.
Yeah.
And in a nutshell, it's kind of like saying we want Great Dixter, but on the cheap. That's kind of my bosses probably wouldn't like me saying that, but that's kind of the idea. Beauty on a budget. That's the other way of saying it. Beauty on a budget.
Yeah.
And so we've got loads of stuff that we're involved in. So we produce soils that go into sustainable drainage systems. So we're developing soils. The history of green roofs in the UK and Europe, actually, a lot of that started in Sheffield at the Green Roof Centre.
Right.
So,
nice.
And a lot of that innovation was done in partnership with Pictorial Meadows in the Green Estate. So we're kind of and we're just continuing the innovation of soils for green roofs, for sustainable drainage systems, and then the planting as well. So we've got all these amazing annual seed mixes, perennial seed mixes, and then perennial turf meadows as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we want to continue to innovate with those. So, for example, producing mixes that are suited to higher fertility soils. So a lot of meadows, when we're all trying to make meadows, you might learn that they actually need low fertility soils.
Yes.
Yeah.
But often in gardens and in urban areas, you have like medium to high fertility. So our meadows are a lot of our products are designed for that kind of medium fertility soil that a lot of people have. But sometimes you've got really high fertility, and that's where we'd like to innovate a bit more and have like solutions for those really high fertility sites.
What's the solution?
Urban areas.
What are the solutions for that?
Well, some of the so the Green Estate and Pictorial Meadows, they're these two companies together. They are a social enterprise, and we also maintain parks. And one of those parks is Manor Park. It's this amazing kind of mosaic of different management types. Sorry, I am going to answer your question. You're probably wondering, why is he telling us this?
I'm so interested, honestly.
But I need to just tell you some of the background.
Context.
And that's it. There was a lovely lady called Marianne Tilecoat who sadly died in the past few years. But over 20 years ago, she set up some experiments on Manor Park looking at really robust perennials that you can plant in brambles. And the only maintenance that they get is they get flailed every 3 to 5 years. And flailed means basically just a massive, like huge agricultural mower just goes over it and just chops it down to the ground. And that's it. There's no weeding. There's no kind of careful, titivating or anything like that.
Yeah.
And these are absolute bomb-proof perennials. And as I say, they grow in amongst brambles, nettles, roseberry, willow herb, creeping thistle.
Do they crowd out all those things? Or they just live with them?
A bit of both. Yeah, that's it. So some of them will crowd out, some of them will just mingle. Yeah. And, roseberry, willow herb and creeping thistle, they are actually really beautiful. And especially if they're kind of presented in the right way with some other colours and some other flowers to create a more diverse scene, they are actually beautiful. And the other one would be hogweed, common hogweed, not giant hogweed. That's the really dangerous hogweed one. Common hogweed is the smaller, more common.
Yeah.
One.
And still pretty as well.
And so an example of a plant for this would be there's an Achillea called Achillea grandiflora. So it's a really big white Achillea, and it has amazing kind of serrated foliage. And then another one would be the white version of roseberry willow herb. So there's a white cultivar of roseberry willow herb. All
right.
Okay.
And then I'll just name one more, and that would be Helianthus tuberosus. So that is artichoke. The
Jerusalem artichoke.
Jerusalem artichoke. That's
it. Yeah, those are great.
Of course.
Yeah, and they're bomb-proof. Like anyone who's planted one,
so
that's it. Yeah, fully perennial. And if you've ever planted one, exactly, it spreads. But what you want with these plants is you want these really tough plants, and they may be native or they may be non-native, but they need to be well behaved and not invasive. They need to not be self-seeding and popping up where you don't want them and starting to become a kind of a problem for local biodiversity. Yeah. So these are just some of the plants. And on Manor Park, we have, as I say, it's over 20 years old that these things have been there, and they're just and they look great. They're doing well, and so
they're not self-seeding and invading.
That's right. They're not at all invasive.
So how do you, when you're dealing with something like that and you're trying out new planting systems, how do you know that they're not going to be invasive in that environment? Do you
Yeah.
just have to suck it and see, or is there a lot more science behind it? Because, you know, I think about, for example, the giant hogweed that you mentioned and Japanese knotweed. They were all brought over here as ornamentals, and everyone thought this is brilliant and how wonderful to have these enormous plants, and now they're a major problem. So how do you stop, for example, a Jerusalem artichoke becoming a major problem? Or how do you know, with these plants that you're trying, how do you know?
The whole question around invasive stuff is an absolutely fascinating topic. There was some research done by a guy called Tomos, Thomos. I can't remember his surname, Tomos, and he was at the University of Reading, and it was a PhD funded by the RHS, and it was a risk assessment for the invasive potential of garden plants, and basically trying to work out what are the signs of things that could be invasive in the future. And something that came out was that on average, roughly, plants are in the UK for about 100 years before they start to be noticed to be invasive.
Interesting.
So
gosh, that's a long time.
Anything could become invasive.
Exactly, yeah. Anything, a lot of stuff could become invasive, and we're obviously seeing rapid climate change.
Yeah.
And
Gunnerers, for example, are becoming apparently now invasive in some areas. It depends where you have them.
That's it. And like, I grew up in Swansea, as I mentioned, and that was the epicenter of Japanese knotweed invasion in the UK.
Really?
So there was a lot of Victorian, plant hunters who were there, who owned, the steelworks and the coal mines and things. And they brought in the Japanese knotweed. And then with industrial decline, we had all this barren landscape that was now like free and open to be invaded by Japanese knotweed, which was now planted all over the place. The climate there's very wet and mild, so the Japanese knotweed just went crazy. So I have seen, like, when I was growing up in the 90s, I saw literally just as far as you could see it, every single churchyard, just hillsides, entire hillsides, all the railway lines, all the river valleys. It was absolutely colossal. So I'm very aware. And we do, one of the many things that we do at Green Estate is invasive plant management. So I actually did the qualification for, I am a certified surveyor of Japanese knotweed. So I can
really
specifically that one, or all invasive?
Yeah, well, we just did a Japanese knotweed, but actually the qualification covers like a whole range of different invasive species, including like aquatic invasives. So you've got all, like floating water, drop water. There's all these different. There's invasive plants in all different contexts. Including trees.
God, you
shouldn't have told Mummy about that, because she always is going, do you think that might be Japanese knotweed, or do you think that might be the invasive plant? And so,
it's such a fear of mine, is ending up with something invasive. But it does make you think, because there's no boundary to it, because I don't know. For example, Monty was talking about his opium poppies that had been lying dormant for 10 years, and only because they'd dug up the dual garden did they suddenly start flowering. And that's gorgeous, lovely, how nice to have all these opium poppies. But you don't necessarily know until the right set of environmental circumstances are present whether that's invasive. I mean, presumably you do, because of this qualification you have. Or is there just no way of knowing?
Well, I think
Jerusalem artichoke might become invasive.
I think one of the signs, things like Verbena bonariensis, the fact that seed's absolutely everywhere.
Good point.
The other one is Anamanthale lesoniana, the pheasant grass. It used to be called Stipa arundinaceae.
Yeah.
So that I think is pretty close to being seen as potentially an invasive. But it is a complicated issue, and it's quite a kind of, ecologists have different views on this as well. So we have one of the smallest floras of any nation. Like the list of plants, you can look this up. We have a very the number of species that's native to the UK is very, very small, because basically we were glaciated until like between 15 and 20,000 years ago, and the only things that are here are the things that managed to cling on in the south, or that have since kind of come over. So we've got like a very, very small number of things that are here. But there's a lot of plants that you'll know, like, Dame's rocket, so Hesperus matronalis, that's strictly not actually native. The common poppy, Papaver, that's probably not native, came in with the Romans. Snowdrops.
Okay.
Also, everyone's favourite ground elder, that is not native, that came in with the Romans.
Damn those Romans.
So what else
Damn
is
the
there?
Romans.
Obviously, sycamore is another, it's interesting with all the tragedy at the Sycamore Gap. It's, it's interesting
everywhere.
that it's obviously part of our national culture, isn't it, the sycamores? So it's very difficult to draw a line. And actually what Thomas says, who did the research, he says, don't look at native or non-native, just look at invasive. So some of our native plants in the right context can be totally invasive, and they can
this
cause,
is my question.
So
because
ivy,
Japanese knotweed isn't invasive in Japan, presumably.
That's right. Yeah. Because I think it's partly because of a pest that they have there that keeps it in check, and it was the absence of the pest. Yeah.
Yes.
The other interesting thing with Japanese knotweed is I think that all of them in the UK are female, and so they don't reproduce by seed. There's no males.
It's little bits that you cut.
It's just the rhizomes and the stolons and the little cuttings that root. So
as
that's
opposed
only...
to in Japan, you've got a male and a female, so that stops.
Oh well, no, I was just it would be even worse if we had the male here as well, because then they would seed.
Oh, yeah, combination.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So we've got the lesser of the two evils then.
That's
Gosh.
That's
it.
Okay. But I think in terms of understanding what is and what isn't invasive, I mean, you generally do get a sense, especially if they're just seeding out of control. And another example would be crocosmia.
Yeah.
So in South Wales, crocosmia is invasive. So is fuchsia in Western Ireland.
No way.
If you go to Western Ireland, fuchsia and crocosmia are just out of control.
I can barely get them to grow here.
Really, yeah. And you see them out in open landscapes just everywhere.
In Wales.
So, well, in Western Ireland, but fuchsia does seed in Wales as well, and in the wetter, more milder areas, you do see fuchsia self-seeding around in Pembrokeshire and places like that.
It's so interesting,
Yeah.
and I would love to talk so much more, but we do need to talk about your dream garden, Owen.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
So,
I've made my list.
Sweet Pea, our head gardener, is going to take you through it.
Righty ho. So, garden boundary. What will be surrounding your dream garden?
So around my dream garden, I would have a hedge.
Okay.
That is a very mixed hedge, and it's almost like a garden and a landscape in itself. And it's inspired by hedges I've seen at Great Dixter, where the whole hedge is this amazing landscape, and it's got elements of topiary and clipped shapes, and they're organic and they're flowing.
Oh, wow.
But then in other hedges that you might see, some of the smaller hedges that you'll see at Great Dixter, they've got plants growing straight up through them. So, for example, alstroemeria growing up through the box hedge and flowering up above it. Or they've got asparagus just growing right in the middle of one of their big topiary peacocks. And it just kind of pops out.
As part of the peacock or just randomly?
It's just randomly, and I don't think it's planned. I think it's either self-seeded or it just happened to be there many years ago, and it's lived on as the hedges have grown and expanded and kind of enveloped the planting around them. But I mean, it's something that I see in lots of places, and I see, for example, little box hedges with just you find loads of things seeding at the bottom of little hedges. In a formal garden setting, they weed all that out. But if you can be a bit more, embracing of it, there's so many little gems that find a home in the bottom of a hedge. And on my allotment now, I've got all these little yew hedges that you may have seen on Gardener's World. Well, they've really started to take shape now. And at the base of those hedges, I find all sorts of lovely things.
Foxgloves?
Yeah. Foxgloves. I find little campanulas, or you might start having little climbing plants. And I'm kind of imagining this hedge, and it's got elements of topiary in it, and it's almost like clipped like a flowing landscape. But then there's also trees growing out of it. So this is something that we know is really good for wildlife, is to have your hedge, but with some trees growing out at the top of the hedge. And so we've got trees and those, and it's about having this tapestry of all sorts of different things. So there might be a crabapple in there with blossom, and then the berries in autumn. And then we've got the more clipped parts of the hedge that might be made of hawthorn and yew. And again, they're changing through the season. They've got berries in autumn foliage and things like that. And then we've got climbing plants growing up and through. And then we've got all these little things seeding in the base. And then some of those plants that are in the hedge might be really old. So you might have some really old elder. And have you seen how gnarly they get and knobbly?
Yeah.
And they're almost dead. They almost look dead, but they've just got a few leaves.
Yeah.
That's it. So just allowing all that dead wood, having all that dead wood in there, and just the hedge in itself is just like, you could just spend hours looking at it. It's habitat. It's got birds nesting in it. It's got bees. There's dead wood. There's clipped shapes. So it's this like wild art meets clipped, and that's kind of that's what I'm imagining is the hedge. And what I will say is that in my dream garden, I've got all the time in the world, because in reality, something like that.
Of course,
I think we need. Yeah, that's always something that I wanted to clarify: is do I get all the time in the world? Because that's because if I don't, then actually I'm going to be a little bit more modest in this. But
just going to have a wall,
just a wall,
exactly.
A fence,
exactly. Yeah.
So that was going to be my question: how does one maintain a hedge like that? Can you just let it do its thing, or is there some maintenance involved?
Clip the topiary.
Yeah, I think so. It would be clipped. Yeah, most of it would be clipped, and it's kind of having. Obviously, you want to be careful with bird nesting season, but having it clipped later in the year. So it's fuzzy through the summer, and that's when all the clematis and all the honeysuckle that are growing in there would be flowering, and there might be roses in it that are spilling out and flowering. And then in autumn when the air, I have suffered from hay fever a bit, and in summer, you feel congested, and then all of a sudden autumn comes, and the air clears up, and you can breathe, and then you clip your hedges, and all of a sudden everything went from being fuzzy and hazy to just clarity and clean lines and clean mind.
Visualize that. I think that.
So that'll be my little shift. But I think my maintenance, what I probably would do is do fairly simple maintenance, which is the clipping, and basically everything that's living in it gets to do its thing within the boundaries of the maintenance.
Yes, that sounds
in your
great.
dream garden, do you want to be responsible for maintaining it, or would you happily let someone else do that job?
God, I've never had. Yeah, I've often wondered, gosh, what would it be like to have someone in my own garden? Yeah.
A bit weird.
I think the garden is all in the doing, isn't it? It's us gardeners, we build the seating area with the table, and we just never sit on it. No. So I think it's in the doing, isn't it? And I do want it to be manageable.
Yeah.
Is your hedge going all the way around your garden?
I think it's almost like a feature of its own. And I would say it might go down one side. At the bottom of the garden is something that we can talk about later. But along one side, it's probably along one side. Maybe it's along the other. But maybe along the other side, it would be nice to just have a nice kind of chestnut fence with a nice open view. And that would be nice. Yeah.
And your view would be sea? The Peak District,
where do you want to
Wales?
Yeah.
Swansea.
I think. It'd be nice if you could be in the Peak District
country.
with a view of Swansea.
That would be nice.
Good. No.
Oh my gosh! Okie dokie. Peak District in Swansea.
I think. I think the view would be. I think the view would be of a kind of an estuary, down to the coast. I think. I wasn't going to reveal it, but at the bottom of my garden is a river. And I would say, so at the bottom of the garden's the river, and then I'm kind of somewhere near an estuary, and we're near the coast. So I've got salt water, I've got fresh water, and that's the dream.
Right, shed or greenhouse for your dream garden?
I'm going to say greenhouse, and I'm definitely going to come back to the fact that I have all the time in the world, because I like a greenhouse, and what I would say is. I think I quite like my greenhouse, which is it came from near Drax Power Station, and Drax is over near Hull, and it's a big power station on the east coast of in Yorkshire. And we drove over there. We got it on Facebook Marketplace for £50, and we went with this old boat trailer for a little dinghy boat. And we managed to get, and we took apart this greenhouse in their garden.
Wow.
And it had a tomato plant in it, which is what I thought was really funny, is that they'd started the year thinking, I'm going to grow a tomato plant. And by the end of it, they were like, we want rid of the greenhouse.
I hate this greenhouse.
We dismantled the greenhouse around the tomato plant and just left this poor naked tomato plant.
Oh no, that's awful.
And all the frame went on the boat trailer, and all the glass went in the boot of our
Terrifying.
car, carefully stacked.
Really
And then we spent all night in the horse barn, which is near the allotment, and we spent all night in the horse stables, boiling kettles of water to create washing up bowls full of soapy water to clean all the glass.
Clean the glass. Wow.
Yeah, and then we put it up, and we had to build a new base for it, and we've had to. It's on a very windy hillside, as you know, on the allotment.
Yeah.
And we've since put so it's glass. It's all glass, but what we've done is on the corners, we've used a really strong perspex. And perspex is a bit expensive, but we've just put it on the pieces that are near the corners, and that's made it really, really strong.
Strengthen it. Yeah.
So knowing what it's like to have a greenhouse that's actually like over the hill that I have to go to and water it when you're not there all the time. I'd love to have a greenhouse that's kind of part of my house.
Right.
So it would be like
one of those lean-to type ones.
Exactly, yeah, and it would almost be part of the house. So yeah, you could go and sit in it and tinker in there and have that just day-to-day observation, chatting to your plants, seeing how they're doing, every morning, go and see them. I'd love to be able to do that.
So a decent size then, somewhere you can sit, put your feet up, talk to your plants.
Yeah.
And would it be wooden?
I would love a wooden one. They're absolutely beautiful, but I do often... maybe I'm stepping out of the dream garden, but I'm just conscious of the maintenance. I'm worried about the maintenance. This is the problem.
But maybe you've got staff, Owen. So.
Yeah, that's it. I've got staff, and I've got this amazing wood that just never rots, and it just is, and it paints itself every few years, and it just looks beautiful. Oh, I'd like a kind of maybe, do you know what? Quite a bright turquoise.
Oh wow!
Ooh,
yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
That is
quite
cool.
Quite a bright.
Have you seen
turquoise.
that before?
Wow, some of the like 1940s houses in Swansea have like wooden features on them, and some of them are painted this kind of turquoise colour. So they've got like red brick with the rosemary red tiles on the roof.
Yeah.
And then they sometimes had like red gutters and windows. And and a lot of those houses have a beautiful little stained glass window somewhere on the door, or just somewhere on the house, a little stained glass window. So do you know, actually that would be what I'd like is a greenhouse with some elements of stained glass in it.
Right.
This is awesome. Never had that.
And not to keep banging on about Swansea, it sounds like I'm just like full team Swansea, but Swansea had the School of Architectural Glass, and when I studied art in Swansea College, upstairs was the School of Architectural Glass, and by architectural glass they mean stained glass. So we used to walk through their studios, and gosh, you definitely did not want to go in there in flip flops because there was just like broken, there was just shards of glass everywhere. But we just looked at these amazing creations with glass. And, obviously glass is all about light. And, for me, a garden is the best. It's all about light. It's understanding where does the light come from? How can I use light in this planting? How can things be backlit? Or, how can I use shadows? And so I love to think about light. And I think, having some stained glass elements through the glass house.
That would be pretty.
And then also like through the day, your plants would be shimmering in the sunlight, but they've got little specks of different colours on them, just coming through. Do you, what I would love is those those little pebble paved areas where you insert pebbles.
Yes, in a mosaic.
Yes.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah, where you can have whole kind of paths and paved areas of just pebbles.
Tell me, what would be your absolute favourite 5 ornamentals for your dream garden?
Oh, this is so difficult. So I'm going to kind of start from the bottom and start low in spring, and then we're kind of going upwards from there. So that's the kind of idea. So I'm going to start with the wooden anemone, and it's Robinsoniana. So this is Anemone nemorosa Robinsoniana. So the wooden anemone is that beautiful little white star-like flower that is a woodland understory, and it's one of our native plants, and it kind of comes out before the bluebells.
Are they only white?
Yeah, so the Robinsoniana, so this is the kind of cultivar that I've chosen, is from William Robinson, and this is William Robinson was one of these kind of old kind of when was he? I don't know. Almost Victorian, perhaps. I'm not actually sure when he was around.
In the days back then. And he kind of started this whole kind of naturalistic gardening idea,
and kind of gardening in a more wild way. And this Anemone nemorosa robinsoniana is this amazing iridescent lilac-y colour. And this really kind of pale pink lilac, and it has this almost iridescent quality, and especially when the light comes through. So in early spring, then you might have, say, some primroses. So you've got your buttery yellow primroses, you might have some little narcissus, and then you've got this iridescent lilac wood anemone.
Lovely. What's the second one?
We're now going for a biennial, and this is Eryngium giganteum.
Great.
And this is often called Miss Wilmot's ghost.
Yes.
So I'm not very good with dates. So just like I didn't know when
she's also
William
from
Robinson,
Days of Yore.
She's from Days of Yore.
From some time in the past, and she would. The story is that she would go around sprinkling those seeds, and they would pop
terrorizing
up
her neighbours' gardens. Yeah.
And it's
so funny.
It's a sea holly, and I love sea hollies. I've got loads of different sea hollies.
Beautiful.
I've got Eryngium pandanifolium, so that's an absolutely huge, probably like 8 or 9 foot tall Eryngium that has lovely deep purple heads on it. But then Eryngium giganteum, which is the one I've gone for, is this amazing silvery colour. So that's something I do really like in plants, is silvery iridescent qualities that kind of glow and look different in different lights, and they change, on a cloudy day to a sunny day, and they kind of almost reflect what's around them. So that's an amazing one. But actually, going back to the invasive plants, this is one that at Wisley in the Udolph borders, also called the glasshouse borders, that they've recently got rid of, and they've redesigned them into a totally different design. That area has a very serious problem with Eryngium giganteum that was planted there, and it just has to be weeded and weeded and weeded, and it really thrives on those sandy soils. It's just perfectly suited to it.
Interesting.
And it is beautiful, and they do allow some of them, but they prevent them. They try and catch them before they seed. So I would say in a garden with very sandy soil in the southeast, you might want to be a bit careful with Eryngium giganteum.
So is it just the giganteum that is invasive, or all Eryngiums?
No, it's just that one that we'd notice. Again, because it's a biennial, if you just stopped it from seeding for a few years, you'd probably not have a problem. It probably wouldn't pop up again, so it's fairly easy to manage.
Right, what are the 3 other ornamentals?
I'm going to go for a grass. So I've been for a kind of herbaceous, flowering plant, which is the Eryngium, and now I'm going to go for a grass, and that is Miscanthus nepalensis.
Okay.
So nepalensis, I assume it's from Nepal. And Miscanthus, obviously there's lots of different Miscanthus, but Nepalensis is very distinct. It's very, very golden. So the flower tassels, they hang down. A lot of Miscanthus do hang down, but with Nepalensis, they really do hang down like tassels.
Yeah,
like a kind of comb of tassels.
Yeah. Lovely.
And they are a beautiful golden colour, really warming.
Okay.
All year round?
Well, they would flower from kind of late summer, and then they'd be a really shimmering gold. And then as you go into the winter, they'd become more like, like cotton wool, like more kind of fluffy.
How tall does it grow?
So Miscanthus nepalensis would get probably like 1 to 1.5 meters, really. Right. But the tricky thing with it, the only bad thing about it is that it is quite tender. It's a grass for the south of the UK or the west, where you're more likely that it would survive. I have had it come through a winter here in Sheffield, but then it died the following winter. So it's a bit tricky. You will also see people growing it in pots. So growing it in a nice big terracotta pot. It's very drought tolerant, and so it's a good thing for a pot. It's good to have your drought tolerant things in a pot, and then you can just kind of bring it out and use it in a display, and it gives you that lovely long season of interest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. Well, in your dream garden, you can have the perfect climate, and it's going to always survive.
That's it.
Right. What are the last 2 ornamentals?
The next would be a shrub, and it is Rosa glauca.
Oh,
so this is a species rose, the glaucous foliage rose. And if glaucous, if anyone doesn't know what that means that kind of, again, that slightly iridescent silvery blue quality. So you get lots of different... Word. That's it.
It's Sweet Pea's favourite word.
Glaucous. It's a great word.
She loves to use that word.
Yeah. And another one that you might know would be Festuca glauca. That's the lovely little the lovely little blue grass. That's
yes, yeah.
Oh, that's a sweet one. Yeah,
that is really cute. I think we've got that actually.
We've got a lot of that.
Tufty.
Yeah.
But lots of things seem to crowd it out. It doesn't get that big.
Yeah.
It doesn't really fight. But it stays alive.
It does.
Yeah.
We don't see it much.
But no, Rosa glauca, it's quite a moody looking plant. You know, the foliage is quite purpley. It's purpley silver. And then you've got these just hot pink flowers on top.
Sounds incredible.
So it's kind of moody, but then it's got Barbie. And that's what I like. I like things that have that.
Cool.
You like a moody Barbie.
Exactly, I like moody Barbie. Maybe I'm moody Barbie. And,
Yes.
But I do like plants that almost have a sense of humour. It's like I like plants that it's almost not taking itself too seriously. It's just flamboyant, and yet it's a wild plant. That's what I like about it. It's a wild plant, and yet it's just here being just unashamedly totally fabulous.
Yeah,
and like
totally
no one even asked it to. Like no one bred it to do that. It was just like, out here.
Hello.
Just out here in the wild, and it's from like really dry, arid climates. You know, like desert hillsides.
Really?
And it's just there being fabulous.
Yeah.
And then
great.
I love how you describe that. That's brilliant.
It's just like
best description.
Hello, people.
Yeah, that's it. Hello. And
it's
then,
making me do a bit of a head wobble every time you talk about it.
Yeah, and it basically does that. It just waves around in the wind.
Shimmy.
And it's got that amazing foliage in spring through summer with and the pink flowers, and then those beautiful hips. So in late in autumn, then you've got just and Rosa glauca is one of the best hips for any rose. You know, and would put Shakira to shame. So that's that's the story.
Oh my gosh, I love that's a great story behind a plant. Well then, final ornamental, what's it going to be?
Okay, so the last one is one that probably no one's heard of. It's Indigofera pendula. So Indigofera, that's indigo. So there's Indigofera, they're all shrubs and kind of climbing type plants, and indigo is one of those. Indigofera pendula is a very kind of what you would call a scandent climber. So that means it's kind of loose and wispy, and it would just kind of meander up through trees and shrubs, and it would meander up into the canopy and just kind of drape its way through. So it's a climbing plant, but it's not vining, it's not self-clinging. So on a wall, you would just gently tie it in. You know, you'd have some wires or something up there, and you could just tie it in.
So it doesn't have thorns to help?
No, it's not got any thorns. It's not got anything like that. The way that it would grow is it would just send a big shoot up and just hope that it leant on something, and then
so a bit like a jasmine,
lean over and then grow that way. A bit like a jasmine, but much more loose and open and airy.
Right.
Okay.
And Indigofera have very fine leaves, a bit like an acacia.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so that very what's the word? It's like pinnate, or is it the basically very fine kind of ferny like leaves?
Sorry, you're asking us.
I know. I should know. I should know all these terms, shouldn't I?
Faces.
I should know all these terms. I think that the word is actually microphylls, when you've got like these really tiny little leaves, and that might not be the right word, but it's something like that.
Yeah.
And it just has very, very fine foliage, and I love plants that are transparent, that you can see through, and they just very light and graceful. You know, they catch the breeze, they let that very dappled light through. And Indigofera pendula around a window or up a house has been described to be a bit like a net curtain. So it's that kind of gives you a little bit of privacy,
gorgeous.
but you can still see through it, and it still lets the light through, but it creates a little bit of a barrier.
It sounds amazing, quite delicate.
That's it. It's very, very delicate, and then the flowers are like small wisteria flowers, a lovely lilac-y, purpley colour. And a bit like wisteria, they're kind of deeper purple at the top. They're almost reddy purple at the top, and they become more lilac as they go down.
Yeah.
The place, if you want to see a really good one, at Sissinghurst, so you go in the front entrance through the big arch and you turn left, and immediately on that wall on the left, you just go down a little bit. There's a big Indigofera pendula all the way across the house, and it goes over the windows, as I said, a bit like net curtains.
Wonderful.
Lovely.
And with it is a rose called Mermaid, which is a lovely big open, very pale yellow, creamy rose that looks like silk. It's a huge flower, and they look like silk. And so you've got this big silky rose with the little lilac raceme flowers, a bit like wisteria, and the foliage of the two. You know, you've got the rich rose foliage, glossy, and then the dainty foliage. So it's like this perfect contrast, perfect working together.
Sounds wonderful.
That is utterly amazing.
Have a look for it. Somewhere that you can get it is Pan Global Plants.
What would be then 5 edible plants for your dream garden?
I'm going to start with one that this year I'm going big on. So it's winter squash.
Oh, okay.
Something I haven't mentioned yet is I actually have another small allotment that I took on this year, just down the road, and it's been managed as a small field. So they get a tractor in there and they plough it up, and it's been managed like that for like hundreds of years.
Crikey.
And it was where the person who emptied the toilets historically in the old outbuildings would have taken all the night soil, as
Dumped
they call
all
it,
that, right?
And he ploughed it into that soil, and then he grew oats on it, and then he fed the oats to the horse that ran the cart that picked up the night soil. So it was like this kind of poo-powered pony.
Circle of life.
That's it. Yeah. So
amazing. So is the soil very good there then still?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm just testing. So the person who had it before just kind of grew a few lines of leeks and a few things and didn't. They were in their late 80s and they used to sell those down in the market, but they were just doing a few things. But now I've come on, I thought, right, I just want to plant squash, and I've also planted dahlias and some hardy chrysanthemums, and I'm just going to not feed them, and I'm just going to see what they do, and that's going to be my measure of how fertile it is. And so far they look very green and they're growing at a good pace, and so I imagine that the soil is very fertile.
Wow, exciting times. Do you not go with your soil background, go with a little test kit and check out what you've got in there?
Yeah,
does it not work like that?
I would have to, the little test kits I don't really trust. I'd have to send it away to a lab. Right. Nitrogen is quite hard to measure. So nitrogen moves between different phases in the soil. So it could be as a liquid, a gas, or it could be in the organic matter. And it's quite expensive. So we don't really, the best way to assess for nitrogen is kind of to look at it and think, are the nettles 6 foot tall? Are the docks got leaves this big?
Are these
flourishing? And if they do,
yeah,
exactly. And is the grass like full of coarse leaf grasses that are just romping away? And if it is, then that's kind of a sign that it's fertile. Right. But the thing that you measure more is phosphorus and potassium. So they're much more measurable. And so if it's high phosphorus, then it's going to be fertile.
Great.
And, whereas in a garden, for me personally, or for a meadow, what you want is low nutrient. You want low phosphorus.
But none of that.
Because that means so low nutrients means an even playing field. It means that all of the plants are just struggling a little bit, and that means that nothing can get taller at the cost of everyone else.
Right.
I think it's interesting, the fertility thing. So Plant Life, who are the national charity for wildflowers, so they're our kind of wildflower conservation charity, their number one threat to wildflowers is nutrients. So
you serious? That's
so
crazy.
Nutrients is we've got nitrogen runoff and phosphorus runoff from agriculture, but you've also got nitrogen deposition. So that's nitrogen that comes from fossil fuel burning, and that then rains down in the rain, and it fertilizes. You can have local nitrogen pollution from like where you've got, say, chicken farms. You've got nitrogen goes into the air and then gets deposited locally into the soils from the air.
Oh my gosh, there's so much we don't know.
I talked about nitrogen being quite complicated, didn't I? And it's a liquid, a gas, or it's in a solid, and it's moving in all these different phases, and they move around. So, sadly, free range chickens are very polluting because they're all out and about pooing on the landscape, whereas the battery chicken is actually indoors and all that poo is scraped up and it can be then used on a farmer's field rather than being just released into the local environment. So that it's quite tricky, isn't it?
So much controversy.
Rough with the smooth with everything, isn't there?
Yeah. So really, nutrients is something we should be careful of. Even if you're, say, buying a lovely organic seaweed feed, you do want to be careful. Your plants don't need that much nutrients, and everything that you put in that the plant's not using is going somewhere, and some of it will just get bound up in the soil, but the soil can only store so much nutrients, and the rest of it will just be leached into the groundwater. or it will be released into the air and then deposited locally nearby. So I would say be careful of nutrients. Yeah.
Well, tell me, what are the 4 other edible plants for the Dream Garden?
So we started with winter squash. I'll just say my cultivar for that is Galaxy Desines, I think it's pronounced. It means mangy squash from Desines. And so Desines, I assume, is a French village or town, and they have this warty squash. So it's covered in warts, and it's it's a kind of orangey, rosy. It's a kind of rosy, pinky, orangey colour.
Do you like it because of the look or because of the taste?
The flavour is beautiful. Yeah, it stores, and it's the most beautiful flavour. Good for.
It sounds beautiful to look at.
Good for squash curries and things like that.
Oh, yummy!
Yeah.
Oh, yummy! Yes.
So my next one would be perennial kale.
Of course.
Oh yeah.
So a common one is a cultivar called Dorbenton. I'll be honest, I haven't actually eaten perennial kale yet, but I ordered some cuttings off eBay, and I've grown those on, and they're doing fine.
eBay, wow.
Yeah, cuttings off eBay. So always a bit risky, but they were like £1.50 or something, including postage. So not much to lose. And so I've got a few of those.
And they came from the UK as well.
Yeah. They were just like within the UK, exactly. And then I've got a mulberry tree.
Oh yeah.
So you may know this. The phrase "caught red-handed" comes from picking mulberries.
Okay.
Because you can't steal mulberries without getting red on your hands.
That's staining your hands.
You just can't.
That.
Yeah.
Do you have a mulberry bush?
No, I don't have a mulberry, but on this new allotment, I think that's what I might well be planting in a lot. I might well be planting some fruit trees. And Dixter's got a lot of mention this chap, but Great Dixter has an amazing mulberry tree, and you can just see where people have been walking through it, and it's got these huge wooden posts that are holding up all the limbs, and it's just leaning, and it's got leaning all over the place with all these limbs that are holding it up. And the paving, the beautiful kind of Yorkstone paving underneath it is just covered in red where the berries have dropped and people have trod on them.
Crikey.
And then people are eating them. And honestly, the flavour on a mulberry, a ripe mulberry in summer, is honestly the best flavour I've ever experienced from a fruit in my life.
And then the last 2 edibles?
So the next one, I'm going for another tree, and it's a hazelnut. So I absolutely love hazelnuts. They're just really, really lovely. And something that I heard in another of your podcasts was singing the praises of Lidl. And Lidl has like the best hazelnuts. Honestly, there's these really great. They're in their like nut, the kind of unsalted nuts section.
Yeah.
And there's it's a kind of greenish packet. And I think just this past few years, the hazelnuts have been like such good flavour. Really, really great hazelnuts.
And
I recently learned that hazelnuts are almost all produced in Turkey. So there's these kind of Turkey. I'm learning lots about Turkey. I'd like to visit Turkey. We've got a friend in our swimming group who's Turkish, and we've been learning a lot. And a lot of Turkey is very green. And hazels, we think of hazels as this kind of woodland, an understory tree.
Yeah, completely.
But they grow these whole kind of forests of hazel in Turkey, and that's where a lot of our hazelnuts come from.
Brilliant. And then the last one.
And the last one is a big one, is beans. So I'm all about those beans.
That covers a lot of bases.
Yeah, love beans, and they're so diverse, and we're learning more and more about how they can provide a lot of solutions to food security and to climate resilient farming as well. They're like nitrogen fixing, so they're pulling in nitrogen from the air and then putting it into the system. And just I'm really enjoying cooking more and more with beans, learning about beans, all the different beans. Really good for your gut microbiome, all that fibre.
They've got it all.
Is there a particular bean you would choose?
Ooh.
Or just all the beans?
I literally buy all of the beans in the supermarket. I buy all of the beans. I just get one of each, and then do that.
Sounds great.
I really like the little is it black turtle beans? You tend to get them dried, so you can get a black turtle bean. They're like a much smaller kidney bean, and they're black. And I would make a black bean dal with that.
Oh gosh, yummy!
And that's a very rich, deep, very slow cooked dal. And it thickens, and the people who cook that tell you you have to thicken it, not by reducing the liquid, but by just cooking it and cooking it and cooking it until the beans become slightly mushier and mushier. And that's where the thickness comes from. It comes from the beans kind of giving out their starches rather than reducing the liquid.
Do you have a recipe for that?
So black bean dal is from the restaurant Dishoom. And there's one in London, I think there's one in Manchester, and it's an amazing Indian street food restaurant. And you can't book. You have to just turn up and queue.
Yeah,
and the black bean dal is one of their famous recipes, and you can Google it. They make it with lots of butter. You can do it with that, but I do it with lots of olive oil as well.
What would be your statement tree for your dream garden?
I'm going to go for Juniperus. So it's a juniper. Juniperus recurva var coxii. So, and it's also called the coffin juniper.
Oh, okay.
So I understand it's from the Himalayas. And, juniper is amazing plants. You can go to the Highlands of Scotland and see the junipers there, on the moors. And then you could go to the cold mountains of the Himalayas and see junipers there. And then they exist in the very arid areas.
Lovely.
And the place to see a really beautiful one of these is at Hergest Croft Garden, which is on the kind of England-Wales border. Hergest Croft have an amazing one. And what I like about this tree is that it is very thin and transparent and wispy, and it looks like something out of Narnia. So again, talking about, I like transparent plants. I like plants that catch the light. And glaucous plants, so it has a lovely silvery blue foliage. And not just the foliage is kind of wispy and airy. The tassels of the foliage kind of hangs in tassels, and they can be meters long, and it's somewhere between weeping and upright. It's it kind of hasn't decided, and it's just all hanging down with long branches hanging out.
Does it have quite a big spread then?
Yeah, quite a big spread. And it almost looks like a kind of ostrich feather, a dress made of ostrich feathers. It's got that kind of quality to it. And then the bark is like a lovely, warm, rusty, very, very peeling bark.
Yeah.
So, and it's very, very knobbly and gnarly. So you've got a real contrast between the kind of very airy, light foliage and then the very peeling, knobbly, kind of rusty coloured bark.
Right, now, would you like a pond or a pool, and what plant would you have in that area?
So I think this is where I'm saying I've got a river. Is that okay?
Your river.
Is that,
of course it is, yeah. You're allowed to hack this however you want.
So at the end of the garden is a river. And
lovely.
When I was at Wisley, so when I was living and working there, I lived in the village where the student accommodation is. And the Wisley is on the River Wey. And the Wey flows down into the Thames, and I used to swim from behind the glass house at Wisley all the way back to our house, which was 1 kilometre.
Wow!
And I would just swim down the river with the flow, and I did that. I did that in the summer. I did it every day, and in the winter I did it 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And I saw and witnessed the river through the whole 12 months. From a frog's eye view. From right here at water level. And I saw the floods in winter, and then in summer where it gets really dry and the water goes really, really clear, and it becomes much shallower. And seeing all the different plants and the wildlife and all the light throughout the year.
Oh, so fantastic!
Yeah,
lovely.
I would say, and it literally the river went right through at the bottom of the garden where the student houses are.
Yeah.
So I'd get out.
So you could just walk out the back.
That's it. And I had all my clothes in my big bag. So I had a big floating bag. Put my clothes in there and then swim home.
Oh, amazing! You would do that. That's how that was your commute.
Just sometimes. Yeah, just sometimes.
Absolutely wonderful. Gosh, you made the most of your time there.
Yeah.
So your dream garden would be open onto this river. So the bank is part of your boundary then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm imagining that the bank, that the river just is at the bottom of the bank, and I would say I'm in the freshwater bit, and it goes out into an estuary, so that's tidal.
Yeah.
And I would say I'm in the bit that's just above the tidal bit.
Got it.
Because the tidal bit's nice, but it's kind of muddy, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
I just get a bit
I want to be in the freshwater bit, and then it's tidal just down there, but I'm okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
okay.
Love this.
And what plant?
So I've gone for Nuphar lutea. So that is the yellow water lily. So it's not actually a water lily, but it looks a bit like a water lily. It's got water lily like leaves, but they're a bit more kind of longer. And
okay.
And the flower it looks like a big yellow buttercup, and it smells like coconut.
Oh wow!
Wow!
And Newfound
That's
lutea
cool.
is actually it's a very common wetland plant here in the wild in the UK. And what I like about it is actual water lilies need still water. You can't grow them in a river, whereas this one does grow in the shallow bits at the edge of a river.
Oh,
So that's why I'd have that. And
did
at
you
Wisley,
see this on the river? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, at Wisley it was there, and I would float in the lily pads and
Oh.
recreate. What's the scene? What's the famous painting with the
yes,
she's
the
laid
woman.
laid in the lily pads.
I know the one. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I would lay
You
down
felt like her
and recreate that and take
love
selfies.
That. Final question for your dream garden. What is your favourite seating area and drink to have there, and a final plant for that area?
It's a wooden bench, and it's made of driftwood that's come up the estuary.
Up your estuary. Yeah.
Up the estuary. And it's and it's got that wood carries its story. It's got an amazing journey, and it arrived here, on that tide. And I think the reason I thought of that is because we live in reservoir land, so all around Sheffield there's loads and loads of reservoirs. It used to be called the Sheffield Lakeland, and it had its own little bus.
All right.
And one of the ones that we live near is Langsett, and that has all this driftwood that washed up at one end. And I don't know why so much. There was all this wood and planks of wood. I think they'd been building fences and doing some forestry, and a load of wood ended up in the reservoir, and it all washed up at this one end, and it looked like driftwood in the sea. It had been battered around. Langsett's really, really windy, huge reservoir, battered around all this wood. And we went and we collected some really big pieces of driftwood, and we made a bench from it.
Did you?
Gorgeous. And they were.
Sorry, where at your home?
Yeah, it's in our home garden, and
wow.
and they were driftwood planks. Yeah. So they were huge planks that had been
just the right
absolutely
shape.
Battered. So they were perfect to be turned into a lovely driftwood bench.
Perfect shape, but really beautiful.
Yeah.
So are you quite handy then, or is
Mick
very handy?
Yeah. I'm the creative department, and he's technical.
He's the
perfect.
Yeah.
So he created this bench, and you haven't had to treat it or anything because this is all
hardened. It doesn't really seem to need treating, although it does. It has become a bit rickety. It's about 8 years old, and we need to give it a bit of love. But it's standing up well. And the nice thing about wood is that it's kind of warm. It's not too cold on your bum in the winter.
Yeah.
Because that's
a bit soggy though.
Can be a bit soggy, but if it's had a bit of sun on it, it's dried out. But I like that about wood. It's not too hot in the summer. It's not too cold in the winter.
And would you have cushions on this bench, or you just?
I think maybe occasionally we'd put a little rug out when we're feeling fancy, but broadly it's just the wood.
And where would it be positioned? Is this on your riverbank?
Yeah, I think on the riverbank might be nice, or maybe just kind of at the end of my kind of tapestry hedge that we talked about. Yeah. At the end of that hedge, somewhere where that kind of meets the river, somewhere there, with maybe with your back to the hedge, and you're looking out over the open view on the other side and down the river.
Beautiful.
It's nice to have something behind you, isn't it? That sense of safety.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. And what plant would you have, and what drink would you have?
Oh, the drink one I'm going to struggle with because I'm not much of a drinker, but the plant I'm going for a honeysuckle, and it's I've got the species is Lonicera similis var Delavei. So the good thing about this honeysuckle is that it doesn't get mildew. So a lot of honeysuckles can get mildew.
Oh, can they?
Yeah. I mean, if you're lucky, or if you just get like the true wild one, often it's fine.
Okay.
But
I think
this one,
the wild one.
Yeah.
I think so. Grows everywhere.
This one flowers. The species that I've given, Lonicera similis var Delavei, flowers for longer. So it kind of starts earlier and it goes really, really late into the season.
Right.
It's got that lovely honeysuckle scent. The foliage looks not too dissimilar from a native one, but the flowers are just a buttery yellow, and it's perfect with roses. So I've got that growing with Rose Generous Gardener, which is a lovely pink rose, and then a clematis as well. So you've got the scented rose and then the honeysuckle together.
So in your dream garden, what will it be growing up?
I guess
your
maybe
veg.
it'd be in the hedge. It'd be
Oh
a
yeah, of
part of a
course.
hedge. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think something I love
That
is
makes sense.
plants growing together.
Yeah.
Things mingling and being
Yeah.
happy together, and if even supporting each other.
Absolutely. Well, even though you're not big drinker,
Yeah.
it can be anything that you just like to just have because you're really thirsty.
What
or
do you
it's
drink on a
cold.
daily basis? Is it just
drink,
water? You don't
I drink
tea
black
or
coffee.
or...
I drink no. I like
coffee.
coffee. I like coffee. I like I've got into herbal teas. I like all teas,
Yeah.
and or tisanes as we should be calling them, as I
Right.
learned from Sarah Raven on her podcast.
Oh, should we? I didn't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
we should
It's
be calling
only
them
it's only tea if it's made with actual Camellia sinensis, like tea, like normal English tea. That's tea.
Right.
Oh.
Fruit teas and herbal teas are actually tisanes.
Okay.
So yeah, just you've got to get it right.
So it's like calling a sparkling wine champagne when it's
that's it.
Champagne.
Yeah, yeah. So I love to correct people on tisanes. Like, tisane.
It's a tisane.
Excuse me, do you mean a tisane? Tisane.
So you having a tisane then?
Tisane. But yeah, so maybe I'll be having a tisane. But
Will
no,
you be
I think
clutching that on your bench?
I think if I can drink absolutely anything, because
anything in the world.
what I might just have is Ribena.
smoothie.
I do love Ribena. A big old cold glass of Ribena.
You can't go wrong with Ribena.
Yeah.
And
in
there's
this dream
nothing
world,
like Ribena.
all that sugar isn't going to cause a problem for me. I'm going to feel fine. It's not going to cause me chaotic mood swings. I'm just going to be fine. And I'm going to have
like me, I go completely mental.
You have a massive high like she does, and then she falls asleep.
That's it. And it'll be just slightly too strong. It'll like cause me a stomachache slightly. Like when you're at a children's birthday party, and you just put like far too much squash in. So yeah, it would be like a lot of Ribena.
A lot of it in a plastic cup, like a
that would be good.
Party.
Yeah. a very large plastic cup.
Yeah,
that like stackable.
Yeah.
Enlarged plastic cup.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
I like
Our first Ribena.
Our first Ribena. I think that finishes the dream garden off perfect.
Oh, good.
Well, I'm going to read it back to you, your dream garden, just in case there's anything you want to change, since you did have such a long list of plants. Yeah. So, we had, as the garden boundary, we had a kind of mixed hedge, like Great Dixter, some shapes, other things with topiary, clipped slightly, flowing with the landscapes, with some trees growing through it, like crab apples, and other plants like foxgloves, campanulas, roses, and clematis. Also, possibly a chestnut fence on one side, with a view of the estuary down below, and we were going to have possibly a mishmash of Peak District and Swansea together. Who knows? We were going to figure something out on that side. And you had, of course, all the time in the world. Then you wanted a greenhouse, all glass, little bit of perspex, and you wanted it to be part of the house to sit down and tinker. It was going to be wooden, wood that never rots. Going to find that stuff somewhere.
Self-painting wood as well.
Yeah, and it was going to be bright turquoise, which sounds amazing. Oh, and of course, the paved pebble mosaic underneath with some stained glass as well. This is going to be awesome. So then, 5 ornamentals. We had the wood anemone Robinsoniana. We had Eryngium giganteum, Miss Wilmot's ghost. Miscanthus nepalensis. Rosa glauca, the best, fabulous. Indigofera pendula. Then your 5 edibles, we had winter squash, galaxy decines, possibly said like that, perennial kale, Dorberton, mulberry tree, hazelnut tree, beans, the black turtle variety possibly, or just all of them. Then your 1 statement tree was a Juniperus recurva coxii, the coffin juniper. You wanted a river down the bottom of your garden that goes to the estuary with a Nufa lutea, the yellow water lily. And finally, your favourite seating area was a lovely wooden driftwood bench, possibly a little rug there sometimes, and at the end of the hedge, looking over the river with a honeysuckle, the Lenicera similis varduliverii, in the hedge, and a cold glass of Ribena, slightly too strong, in a stupidly large cup, plastic cup.
Oh, that's fantastic! It all seems so classy, and then it all arrived at the Ribena in the plastic cup, and I think that's me. I may appear classy, but I'm really not. I'm definitely Ribena in the plastic cup. That's me.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I would have done the same.
I love that it ended with that.
Good.
That sounds absolutely beautiful, and I can really picture it as well. I can also just picture you drifting past on the river.
Like that painting.
Yeah, that's it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure to go through this with you, and it really does open up your mind, and you just dream. We're all dreamers, aren't we? We're all dreamers. Gardeners are dreamers. To garden is it's all about dreaming, and you might spend 10% of the time in the garden, and 90% of the time dreaming about the garden, imagining the garden,
going to be like,
wondering what's going on, making plans.
Gosh, yes.
Sitting. You put your bulbs in, and then you just for this next 6 months just dream of what they'll be like. So
and try not to forget about them.
That's it. It's all in your head, isn't it? It's just so much of it is up here, and the garden is a real thing, and so much of it's in your mind. So
very true.
I think what you're doing on this podcast is really special, and it's
thank you, Owen.
It's like total escapism, but at the same time, it's real, and
exactly.
And we're so I think you're doing a fantastic job, and I absolutely love listening to your podcast. It's
great to hear.
Such a pleasure.
That's really lovely.
You two are so good chatting, and you bring out the best in people. But the people that you get on, they're everyone from professionals to amateurs, as we call it. And yet they're all full of knowledge and insight and things to share.
There's something
all
new
levels
we
of
learn every
knowledge.
time.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
there's something for everyone. There's something for everyone on this. I think you're doing such a good job.
Tell you what, I have learnt so much from this one.
Yeah, I have.
As
Top
I
tips
say,
all the way through.
Still many questions to ask, but
yeah,
we will leave you in peace.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, we'll have to meet up and chat in real life at some point.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Well, that's been a good old chit chat with Owen.
Thank you.